Books. Books. Sometimes they suck. Books. Books. They make us say fuck. Two Trouts.
In search of an author.
Hello.
This is Two Trouts in search of an author. Welcome back.
Hello.
I'm Jai, and with me as always is David.
Hi. And our author for this week is Richard S. Prather.
Yes.
Who wrote a little ditty called Strip for Murder.
It is part of the Shel Scott series of mystery novels.
Yes. Let's get down to the bare facts. It says on the cover.
Yes. The very saucy cover.
Very lurid, very bedroom eyes and butts. A butt and some underboob.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, about the author, Richard S. Prather, a mystery novelist, obviously. He wrote under a couple pseudonyms, David Knight and Douglas Ring. Richard S. Prather was his real name. These pseudonyms were used, once each.
Yes.
And they were just for weird offshoots.
Yeah.
One was for a Shel Scott novel, and they reprinted it back under his name a few years later.
Right.
Don't get the pseudonym use in that, but
the Shel Scott series, and it is part of a series, by the way.
Yes.
Of 36 books.
Well, I got 42.
Okay.
But that also included, short stories and compilations of short stories.
Yeah.
So probably, 36 full-length novels.
The 36, it was full-length novels. And this is apparently number 8 of the full-length novels.
Yeah.
Strip for Murder.
And,
Yeah.
well,
this is the one he was proud of, because he put his name on it.
Well, he put his name on all of... He didn't have any other series. He was basically just Shel Scott mysteries.
But the pseudonyms for the books that he didn't want his name put on, I don't know about those.
There were he wrote 3 other books. 2 of them he put his name on. The other one he used a pseudonym for some reason. So
right,
a good 98% of his books had his name on it.
And he was rocking the John Waters chic. If you look at his picture on Wikipedia.
Yeah, we'll have to, I don't know, put a picture on our Tumblr or something, because that's a good mustache.
So, I'm going to get to the synopsis.
Yes.
And we do not require a spoiler warning, because who cares? Shel Scott, private detective. He's hired by a rich Mrs. Redstone to investigate the new husband of her young daughter Vera, Andon Poubelle, whom she suspects to be a con man who married Vera for the money. Meanwhile, Shel Scott is also hired by Laurel Redstone, the oldest daughter, to help her with something she can't discuss in public, and invites him to her health club, quote-unquote, on the outskirts of town. After some empty leads on the Mrs. Redstone case, Scott shows up at the health club and discovers with horror that Laurel Redstone is, in fact, a member of a nudist colony.
Oh no!
And that she has hired him to impersonate the health director, who was injured under suspicious circumstances. Scott realizes that the attempt on Laurel's life, in which the old health director was injured, and Vera's conman husband must be related. Scott deceives the nudists, or naturists as they prefer to be called, into thinking he's actually qualified to be a health director and infiltrates. Meanwhile, he canoodles with Laurel Redstone.
And canoodling was had.
Much canoodling. As he investigates both Vera Redstone's husband and the intrigues around the naturist camp, he discovers that there has been a string of murders connected to investigating Andon Poubelle. The old P.I. was the first victim, and before he can stop it, the older Mrs. Redstone is the next victim. In the wake of the Redstone murder, he begins to follow the money, specifically a series of loans that Poubelle took out, and finds out that Poubelle, a gambling addict, got in trouble with a loan shark that had his eyes on the Redstone fortune. At the bottom of everything is a loan shark named Norman, who tries to pull one last hit on Shel Scott as he hides out in the naturist camp during their annual health convention. Shel gets away, naked as the day he was born, riding a hot air balloon. Yes, really. And lands in the middle of Los Angeles, stark naked. Then he and his friend in the police, Sam, jump in the car and chase down Norman before he can get away. Norman gets shot and killed, but not before spilling the beans and revealing that he did everything. Poobelle and Vera, soon to be divorced, are found in Las Vegas, and Shell Scott and Laurel Redstone are banned from every nudist camp in the country. However, this leaves Laurel quite wealthy from her inheritance from her mother, and the two of them run off to Hawaii and have a happy ending together.
On a secluded beach in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hell yes, Hawaii.
Hell yeah, Hawaii.
That is the last line of the novel. Also, I want to make a correction.
Oh, yeah?
You kept saying Poobelle.
Poobelle? Is it not
Yes.
Poobelle?
Yes.
Poubelle?
No, it's Poopelle.
Poopelle.
With a P.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. I know that because one of my main complaints about this book is that they keep calling him Poopy. And I hate that. But anyway.
That's right. So truly, it is a gritty, grim, film noir inspired murder mystery.
It's not really that grim or gritty.
I was being facetious.
Oh wow, you just pulled the wool over my eyes.
Shh, it's not really grim or gritty. It is, in fact, quite lighter than air.
There's some... Haha, I see what you did there, you motherfucker. There's some gritty aspects, some violence here and there.
It is it was 1955. Mm-hmm. This is the 1955 Shell Scott mystery.
And the series ran up to 86, 87? 87. There was another one released quite recently, 2011.
Yeah. Posthumously.
Yeah, posthumously, because he died in 2007, so...
Yeah, I think the newest book was in 2011, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Shall we get on to the mechanics?
First, I want to read out a list of my favorite Shell Scott books. Because we didn't do
yes.
that yet.
Yes, okay.
Like, Everybody Had a Gun, Have Gat Will Travel, Dig That Crazy Grave.
That's
my
such a
favorite.
good title.
Alright. So, now we can actually get to...
not gonna have the Dead Heat on there?
Oh.
The most generic of all crime
I guess.
titles?
Yeah, Dead Heat. He also wrote a book called Dead Heat.
Dead Heat.
So, yeah, mechanics.
Mechanically,
1955, pulp as fuck.
a lot of uses of... I actually don't know if he says dame at all in it, but he
might as well.
He calls a girl a tomato. Like
he does say that a woman comes at him in sections, and I'm pretty sure he says that she has all her curves in the right places.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that's two of them. He's got all the good old fashioned pulp novel cliches.
Yeah, the dialogue's very 1950s.
Tough guy. All the men call each other tough guy, and...
Yeah, it's... Like, the language is exactly what you would expect a generic...
Yeah. And all the gangsters have, like...
Silly fucking names.
Silly Dick Tracy names, like Garlic.
Garlic, and what was it? Fu Young Egg was the Chinese one.
Young Egg Fu.
That's right.
I guess he was the Chinese one in the group.
And he even goes on to describe why he was called that. He was trying to justify the name. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Young Egg Fu.
But those guys are kind of not really important.
Yeah, they're basically Team Rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in a few times and make trouble, and then they always get blasted off somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I think they die at the end, actually. Or one of them gets shot.
Yeah.
And then they all get arrested. I was hoping that they would come back and, they're recurring Shell Scott, baddies who come in and make trouble for him in the series, but I guess not. If one of them got shot.
Yeah, probably not, because, Garlic was a new character, but I imagine, every novel has a food gangster in it. I hope, at least.
I really hope, yes.
I can't wait for the carrot gangster. I don't know, pomegranate. Shall we go into the...
Well, full of beans for the birds. Tone.
Yeah.
The tone is clearly...
It's lighthearted.
It's unique in that it's... I have a feeling that at the time this was being written, most of the detective novels would have been kind of like police, like Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe.
Those were a bit earlier than
Yeah.
the 50s. Those, like...
But it would have been of that sort of lineage.
Yes.
Except the gimmick that Richard Prather has is that Shel Scott is really jolly.
There were definitely still, like, jolly detectives in the 50s, though.
True.
I mean, Hard Boiled was still definitely going strong, but I do think 50s had its fair share of lighthearted detectives. Also,
Yeah.
Shel Scott, his picture is emblazoned everywhere.
Yes, on every cover.
And he's just white hair, very bushy white eyebrows.
Yes. Smug as all hell.
Yeah. He has a punchable face, I feel.
Yes. And I think most of the people in the book agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the book was obviously written with the nudist camp angle in mind, and then he wrote a mystery around it.
You see, I kind of feel the other way.
Yeah?
I feel like it's a pretty standard mystery novel, and he kind of felt like, what can I do to spice this up? I know a nudist colony.
Okay.
Because the colony isn't really a main point. It's in the beginning, kind of in the middle,
Yeah.
kind of in the end.
It could have been anything.
Yeah,
It could have
like,
been... It could have been she had a baby. It could have been...
He needs to infiltrate a circus as a clown.
Yeah.
And he feels ridiculous dressing up as a clown, like
Yeah.
he feels ridiculous being
Anything
naked.
that it would have been scandalous for Laurel Redstone to be a part of.
Or like anything where Shel Scott would have been a fish out of water, basically.
Yes, that too. That's a big part of it. The cover? Shall we get into the cover?
I guess we
Yeah,
can get
more.
into cover judgment. I mean, I guess I can save this stuff for stuff I did like.
Right.
And it will go a bit more into the mechanics, but...
Yeah. So as you can see, it's a lady giving you bedroom eyes as she's pulling up her dress with her bare-ass naked butt.
Bare-ass naked butt. Okay.
Yes, you can quote me on that.
I just did.
And standing next to a river, taking off her clothes, bright red hair, obviously supposed to be Laurel Redstone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this particular scene ever actually happened.
No.
They don't go to a river and she takes off her clothes and goes skinny dipping.
No.
She always takes off her clothes in dressing rooms and then comes out naked and like poses a couple times.
Uh-huh.
And then he goes off on like 50 cliches about his erection, basically.
You know, maybe it is time to get into one of my points. Did you notice all the female characters in this book?
Yeah.
All their breasts were large. All their breasts were described as being large or plump. There was never a small-breasted woman. They were always well-figured, especially the breasts. Not really much talk about the hips.
Yeah.
But here,
I think Richard Prather is a bust man.
Yes, definitely. I think... I mean, I was kind of noticing it earlier, but... page 108, he's in an office. I forget whose office it was, but... just the receptionist there. Yeah, she was wearing a, black skirt and a pink sweater, and I quote, "She was strategically seated so that she smacked you in the eyes when you entered, and she was strategically built so that she smacked you in both eyes." And he kind of goes on about her breasts, like she tugs at the sweater, but she can't get it really adjusted over her large breasts.
Right.
And it's kind of definitely not the most progressive view of women.
Well, 1955.
Yeah. I think also one of my favorite lines is when he's at the Cuban nightclub.
I think I saw this underlined when I was flipping through it.
Yes, crap. Oh yeah, here we go. And it's Juanita, the kind of cabaret star of the club. The rest of her looked as if approximately 5 feet 10 inches of well-stacked woman had been mashed down into 5 feet 7 inches. The excess bulging out and overflowing in enjoyable places. So yeah, it's sexist.
Yeah,
just right off the bat, but kind of par for the course for old hard-boiled detective fiction, really.
That's the time, I guess.
Yeah, it's there.
How dare you? How dare you, Richard S. Prather, write according to your time and place.
Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, he also kind of looked a little bit like Russ Meyer, who also had a very big breast fixation. So, anyway, shall we go on to stuff we didn't like about this book?
Sure.
All right. You want to go first?
Yeah. I honestly, I've read it.
Uh-huh.
I only read through it the once, maybe like 1.5 times, because we took that big break.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't tell you the plot now. I mean, what I know is basically what I read to you in the synopsis. I can't remember. I can remember bits and pieces. I remember Juanita, they went to the Cuban nightclub for some reason. They went to the medieval-themed casino that's like...
The castle.
The castle that's like...
Norman's castle.
Across the street from the nudist camp.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's where they took pictures of Laurel Redstone sunbathing nude. So they went there, and I remember that they went there, and I remember that they went to like skeezy bars and fought garlic and young egg foo, and then he had a balloon ride, and he did jumping jacks with the nudists, and I couldn't tell you like what the actual mystery was or what the resolution, what actually happened.
Yeah, well, that is also kind of my big complaint about this book. I feel the mystery doesn't really pop up until like over halfway through the novel.
Yeah.
Like, the beginning, Mrs. Redstone hires Shel Scott, and I don't really understand why. It's to look after her daughter, which I kind of understand that.
I think he hires her or she hires him to investigate and on Poopy.
And that's also one of my big hates, but...
And investigate him, look into his background, because the last PI that she hired got killed.
Yes.
While looking at Poopel.
But I didn't feel a compelling mystery there.
Yeah.
There was...
Not really.
Nothing really...
It doesn't start with a murderer. Doesn't start with anything.
I mean, I can kind of... They can build off, like, a man with a shady past married her daughter... But they don't really even get into that.
Yeah.
It kind of meanders. Like, he goes to the nudist colony.
The attempted murder at the nudist colony is a little more interesting.
Yes, but even that, I feel, still kind of grasping at straws. There's nothing really solid to hang on to.
Yeah.
I feel it really, like, grabs you once Miss Redstone gets killed.
Yes.
That's when... Okay, here's a mystery that he needs to solve.
And she doesn't get killed until, like, halfway through.
Yeah, like, at page, 90, 100, and it's only a 170-page long book.
So, yeah, it does give the feeling that Shel Scott's just kind of meandering around town, not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Until Miss Redstone gets killed, and...
And then it kind of kicks into, okay, I need to find out the murderer.
Now we really have to figure out why someone's trying to kill Laurel... who Andon Poopel is, and where the money comes from. There's something about...
Yeah, Poopel has a gambling problem, and he's not very good. He goes to Castle Norman, and he loses all the time, but he continuously has money, so...
Right.
But that was also another big complaint for me.
Poopel wasn't actually the bad guy. That's a thing. Like, they set up Poopel to be kind of important, and then by the end of the book, he really just disappears.
You see, the thing is, I mean, he's kind of the bad guy.
Yeah, but there's no confrontation with him.
No.
There's no real...
One of my big complaints is the instant Norman is introduced, you're like, he did it.
Yeah.
There's not even really, like, a list of other people that could have done it. It was basically, Norman did this.
Right.
And, you know, that's fine. It's kind of more of a procedural, like, why rather than who. I just didn't feel compelled enough to understand why.
How far in does Norman get introduced?
I think
he's remember?
Like page 40, like somewhere around there.
I think that was before we took our break. So
yeah,
like by the time I picked it up again, I'd forgotten.
Yeah,
that Norman was super skeezy.
Like, well, I mean, they make a lot of effort to show that he's skeezy and that he's manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And he's obviously controlling Poopel and all this money. And there's no other person we can really blame it on.
Right.
So the mystery, quote unquote, isn't really
much of a mystery.
Yeah, it's more why did he do it? And even then the reasons aren't very compelling.
No.
I don't even really...
Not really.
It was just...
Poopel's gambling debts. Poopel had gambling debts, therefore he married Vera Redstone.
So...
Therefore...
Once they inherited all the money from Mrs. Redstone, he could extort it from Poopel.
Right. I think.
Yeah, that was the entire plot.
Okay.
Which they kind of mention in, like, the first 10 pages. Like, Mrs. Redstone's, like, I don't trust Poopel. I feel like he just wants to get my money after I die.
Right.
So it already explains to us this is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that says... otherwise, like, all throughout the book.
Yeah. And, as I said, Poopel and Vera kind of disappear from the book in the latter half. Like, they run off to Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. They run off to Las Vegas because Norman sets up a fake murder.
Yes.
He manipulates Poopel into beating up a guy, or shooting a guy with a blank. And then the guy
has that really gross contraption they talk of, which is like a little bladder, but with chicken blood.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of gross. I wouldn't want to put chicken blood in my mouth.
Yeah, it is gross. And that's why he runs off to Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
But the other guy, that's why he was talking to Juanita. See, now I'm remembering all of the plot as we're talking about it. That's right.
But it's still, I don't find it very compelling.
Yeah, I would have remembered it better if it was more compelling, I think.
If there was a stronger mystery that really kind of roped you in. They don't really treat naturists, whatever. They don't treat them in the best of light.
I think it treats them as kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's... a bit more...
By the end of the book, though, Shell Scott's like, wow, I feel great.
Shell Scott
I guess this wheat germ diet and getting all this exercise is really is good for me.
Yeah, like even when he's impersonating their, like, instructor, which that plot line also kind of falls by the wayside.
It doesn't go anywhere. It goes somewhere, but it doesn't matter. Like, there's no stakes attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no...
They say they're, like, in this national competition, and they need him to coach them, but they already sound like that they're coached.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's in a week. And?
And also he runs off for long stretches.
Oh, definitely.
And doesn't actually do any coaching.
Yeah, he does
their jumping jacks, like, once.
And during that time... he says, oh, maybe there's something to this. So it's not like saying being a nudist is bad, but it does have this weird...
And sometimes it's actually quite unsexy.
Oh, it's definitely.
It's good. You buy the book and you think, oh, it's going to be about this scandalous nudist colony. But then it's just, like, these health nuts who eat wheat germ shakes and exercise all the time.
Yeah.
And go sunbathing in the nude.
Yeah, that's
play volleyball and...
It's just a nudist camp.
It's very unsexy. This nudist camp is very unsexy.
Much like probably a lot of other nudist camps.
Yeah, probably like real nudist camps would be.
It's just that he doesn't portray them in a very bad light, but it is kind of a product of its time where he mentions it to other people and they're like, nudists? What a bunch of crazy motherfuckers.
Horrifying.
Wheat germ, what is this gross shit? I mean, wheat germ is gross shit.
Wheat germ is pretty gross.
But I also noticed Shell Scott has a fixation on meat.
A little bit, yeah.
There's, I did mark down a page here where it's very like, meat power.
Is this because...
Oh yeah, he was trying to, he was in that office, and that guy was trying to throw him out the window.
Right.
And he said that he would have been thrown out of the window if he hadn't ate a hamburger. Like...
Right.
It's all like, hamburger power, meat power, and, kind of, haha, vegetarianism, that's silly.
Screw vegetarianism.
Eat meat, I'm a hard-boiled detective.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, whatever. It's weird, but it's a product of its time.
Definitely.
So
I think if it was in its mind to be more lurid and more scandalous, it could have, in its own 1950s-y, with the times being as they were away, it could have been a little more scandalous and sexy and
I think if it
weird.
went a little bit more into the lurid territory, I think I would have liked it a lot more. It just needed a little tiny step forward.
Right. Just to make it a little more ridiculous.
Or maybe a little tiny step back. Either or. It's kind of in this awkward middle ground where it's not quite like grandma mystery, but it's not quite like hard-boiled, tough mystery.
I think that most Shell Scotts are like that.
Probably.
I think it's the formula is...
It's definitely during the hard-boiled time era, so...
It's during the hard-boiled time era, so it's
trying to
it
be
has
lighthearted.
that dialogue. Yeah, lighthearted, titillating, but in a jolly way.
Yes, but still a bit hard-boiled. So it's kind of occupying this weird middle ground where it's not exactly Dashiell Hammett, it's not exactly like Agatha Christie, so...
Yeah.
So it's this weird middle ground. I kind of wish it would take a side.
Yeah.
But,
As for what else I didn't like, I already said this, the nudist colony could have been anything.
Yeah.
And the plot wouldn't have changed.
Definitely.
And we already talked about that, so do you have any other stuff you didn't like?
I've mentioned several times, I hate that they call him Poopy.
Poopy.
I mean, I could understand Vera calling him Poopy, because, it's a old 1950s affectation.
Right.
But Shell calls him Poopy way more, and that just really bothers me.
Well, Shell's an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, Shell is a smarmy,
and he's,
smarmy dick.
He's doing it to be sarcastic. I just hate it, though. And he has a line, I didn't note it or anything, but it was like, Poopy pooped the poop. And it's just, stop it!
Stop being cute. You're not cute.
It's gross. But that's I guess that's just my own thing where I really hate those cute nicknames, so...
Yeah.
Shall we go on to stuff we like about this?
Yeah. I like it. I like all those hokey 1950s hard-boiled detective cliches. I love them. I love that all the women come at you in sections with curves in all the right places.
Yeah.
And...
Fair enough.
And all the wisecracks and double entendres.
I do enjoy the double entendres. I do, as much as I hate Poopy, the language is fun. It's a bygone language that we don't really get anymore without really seeming like the author's trying really hard. It's just a product of its time.
I'm going to try to find a line that you underlined.
I didn't underline very...
Or maybe I underlined it.
You didn't underline at all.
Oh.
I underlined like 2 lines, so good luck.
Let me see if I can find it. Un momento, por favor. So, I gave Laurel a hard look, got up, and strode out. Trying not to limp, I leaned against the wall for about a minute. 4 women strolled by, then 2 couples, then 6 or 7 more women. I didn't count them, but never in my life have I seen so many naked broads all at once. I didn't mind, though. I'm broad-minded.
Yeah, I underlined that. That was something that I'm like, yeah! Yeah, there's a pun I can get behind.
Yes.
Yeah, for all its, I feel, mistakes in plotting, it's still kind of a fun read.
It strikes a good tone. And it strikes a good, language.
Yeah, the language is fun. Characters are kind of fun. A lot of them kind of throw away. Mm-hmm. There's, like, Mr. Browns and Benders and Garlics and...
yeah. Young Egg Foo.
Yeah, and Juanitas and all these extra characters. Third Eye.
Yep. They kind of drift in and out.
Yeah, and they don't really have much holding on the story.
No.
But I like those extraneous characters. I thought they were fun, pointless but fun.
What's another thing you liked?
Hot air balloons.
Yes, the finale. If you didn't, let's just set up the finale. So before that, they've set up this contraption with like a ladder and a hot air balloon to dig a bullet out of the side of a mountain. Mm-hmm. You know, and then they'll send the bullet to the forensics lab. They'll match it up to the gun that was used to try to attempt an assassination on Laurel Redstone. So they've did that, and then they just leave the balloon behind because they have to go to the health convention.
Yeah.
So they have the health convention. Shell Scott is trying his best to officiate the games. He officiates a beauty contest.
Yeah. That he does.
Yeah, and once again, boobs everywhere.
Very broad-minded.
Very broad-minded. He's very broad-minded. He's also not a very good beauty contest judge.
God, no.
He basically just says, that one wins, and then just sits on his pockets for the rest of the...
Doesn't he say, like, early in the novel, what's her face? The sister.
Vera?
No.
Laurel?
Yeah, Laurel. Wow, I couldn't remember that name. I have no idea why. She mentions to him there's going to be a beauty contest, and he just says, you win. He's all like, it's not happening. You can't just do that. He's all like, I don't care. You win.
You win. Yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, after all the health convention stuff happens, then dudes show up with guns. They get into a big scrape, and he has to run off and escape. Of course, he's naked because he's in the nudist camp.
Yes.
So he runs to the hot air balloon. He escapes up the ladder, climbs on top of the hot air balloon, unhinges it, and then he floats up into the stratosphere and escapes the bad guys. So now he's floating above Los Angeles in a hot air balloon, stark naked, and he comes down in the middle of downtown, like in front of the police station.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically the climax of the book.
Haha.
It cannot be any better than that.
Yeah, and it's not.
Like, yeah, there's a car chase afterwards, and they fight
who
Norman,
cares?
but who cares? Because
and then,
the hot air balloon sequence is charming as hell.
And then Norman's weird, I'll tell you my entire plan while I'm dying.
Yes, Norman takes forever to die.
And it's kind of really awkward, because Shell doesn't even, like, manipulate him to do it. It's all like, oh, I got shot in the stomach.
Yeah.
Oh no, my, like, liver's ruptured or something. Well, time to tell ya.
You're dead, Norman. You're in shock, that's all. I'll give you a minute, maybe 2. And then he just instantly becomes glassy-eyed and goes, I'm going to tell you everything.
Yep.
All of it was my idea, Norman said. And then he takes 1, 2, 3 pages to die.
Yeah. Can I also tell you something that I like? And I think it's something that's just me. Because I noticed this in Slocum's run as well.
Oh, yeah?
I cannot read exclamations without it being very deadpan.
Okay. Give us an example. Why don't you?
Going back to the Cuban nightclub, when they first introduced Juanita in page 128, they mention her in, like, page 10, and it takes forever for them to actually do much with the nightclub.
Right.
Shell Scott's interrogating a guy, and he can't take his eyes off Juanita, and Here's what he says.
Okay.
And I quote, "Yeah, yow, wow, man, look at that, yeah." This one is a bit different than Slocum's Run because there are no exclamation marks. It is a period after like each word except for man, comma, look at that, and look at is one word. Yeah, I guess there's a comma there. Yeah, yow, wow.
Man, look at that. Yeah.
And I cannot read these types of sentences without it being very deadpan to me. And I know they don't mean for that to happen, but they should just not put that in a book. You can't do exclamations that well.
Well, that's not Shell, though. That's like the guy sitting at Shell's table.
Yeah. That's the guy.
ogling Juanita.
Yeah, but he's not being deadpan either.
No.
He's really into it.
I guess he's supposed to be saying, yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
man, look
wow,
at that.
Man,
yeah.
look at that.
Woo,
Yeah. Like,
but that's something I like, that I've discovered I cannot read these things without it just being completely just no affectation in their voices.
well, that's a good thing to understand about yourself.
Yes.
It's a good thing to discover.
So, in future books, if we ever get a fan base and they'd like to recommend us books, recommend me a book that's nothing like that, and I'll be completely satisfied. Because I love when I come across those.
Okay. I'll be sure to tell the fans.
All of them.
Yeah.
All
However
blank
many.
of them.
I like this book. It's completely inconsequential, light as a feather, and kind of dumb, but it's charming.
Well, I can see it.
Yeah.
If you were to rate this book...
Well, obviously, since it's about nudist colonies, the more clothes it has on, the worse it is.
Oh, good
So
one.
how little are you wearing for this book?
How little am I wearing for this book?
Yes.
I think I would actually... Ooh, no, that's being a bit too harsh.
I'm wearing, like, underwear and an undershirt and, like, a bracelet. You know.
I think I would be wearing boxers, a bra, and a hat.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a cardigan sweater.
Okay. When you talk about how uncompelling the mystery was, you put on that cardigan.
Yeah, I mean...
Just for that part. A cardigan and boxers.
Cardigan, boxers, also a bra. I need a little bit of...
You need some support.
Yes. I need some support for this book. Would you recommend this book?
Sure, why not? Yeah, check out Shel Scott Mysteries. The Naked Truth.
Oh yeah, here's the back blurb.
I'm going to read you the back blurb.
We forgot to do this at the
because
beginning.
we forgot to do this.
Whatever.
Because it's great. The Naked Truth. Ellipses. This gorgeous tomato met me at the gate, and every time she breathed, I nearly went mad. She was really stripped for action. I'm Shel Scott, the private eye with 20/20 vision, and man was that going to come in handy in this joint. The gorgeous tomato led me up a path that opened into a big grassy lawn, and then my teeth began to rattle. Migawd, spelled M-I-G-A-W-D. There were hundreds of them, capering joyfully around the green. I'd been hired to find a killer in a nudist colony. Not true, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was going to look pretty damn silly wearing nothing but my gun. Also not true.
She expressly forbids him from wearing a gun.
Yes. First of all, he's not hired to find a killer. He's hired to impersonate the health director.
Yeah.
And he never gets to wear his gun.
Nope. I would recommend this book if you don't have any other good mysteries on your shelf.
Yeah.
I'm really not too crazy about this book. It's fun, but a little bit of a slog.
Fun isn't everything.
Yeah, it's fun in like the last 70 pages, I think.
Yeah.
I feel the first 100
it's all setting up for...
are kind of a bit boring.
It's all setting up for the The big money shot.
Yeah, I mean, not super boring. There's a lot of, like, fun little nudist colony hijinks.
Yeah, in 1950s vernacular.
Yeah, but
Popping up everywhere.
Still doesn't grab me that much, and I feel if you want just a light, breezy, like, mystery for, like, traveling or something, then yeah, pick it up.
Yes, good airport fiction.
Yeah. Good for a plane, a bus, a train.
Planes, trains, automobiles.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of trains.
Yeah. Inside jokes.
Uh,
Comedy gold.
Oh, everyone knows about lots and lots of trains.
They don't know it as well as we know it.
It's true.
But,
They don't own a copy.
With the soundtrack.
With the soundtrack.
Anyway, enough about inside jokes.
Enough about lots and lots of trains.
Yeah, it's alright if you have nothing better going on at the moment, but I don't think I'd go out of my way to read it.
Fair enough. Alright.
Anything else you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we basically covered as much of the book as we need to.
Yeah, Richard S. Prather's
Yep, our author this week was Richard S. Prather. The book was Stripped for Murder. We are the Two Trouts.
Yes, I'm Jai.
I'm David.
And we'll see you next week. Next week's going to be a fun one.
Oh, yes. I think so.
All right, well, until then,
Farewell!
keep judging books based off their covers.
Please.